Welcome to my classroom. Today I want to talk a little bit about how science will sometimes change its mind as we get more information. In science, there are very few laws: law of gravity, Newton's laws of motion, lots of theories. Theories mean it's our best guess based on the data and the information we have. I'm sitting here this morning on the top of Logan Canyon. That way, just over the next ridge, you'll find Bear Lake. And right behind me is a gnarly old limber pine tree. The limber pine is a very interesting tree. It likes to grow on the top of mountains, on the top of ridges where it's really windy and not many other things can survive, but the limber pine, like its name says, is limber. It'll twist and bend. You can actually grab the ends of the limber pine and tie them into a knot. Very limber, the limber pine. First time I saw this limber pine behind me, I was probably about 12 years old, and I had come over the ridge behind me here with my dad. We were deer hunting, and we saw this tree, and there was a sign explaining that this tree was a couple of thousand years old. Well, many years later, I came back up here, and there was a new sign explaining that this tree was not a couple of thousand years old, but it was a few hundred years old, and it actually has a more interesting story than just being very, very old. The limber pine that you see behind us is actually 5 different trees all growing out of the same spot. The culprit in this deception happens to be a tiny little bird, precocious little bird, named the Clark's nutcracker. It was named for William Clark of the Lewis and Clark fame. It's a camp robber. It'll come into your camp and steal your food, and it did that to Lewis and Clark, and it does it still. It'll grab seeds, and then it will bury them, cache them, if you will, and come back later. Well, apparently this spot was a spot where Clark's nutcracker had buried its seeds and forgotten where it buried them, and the tree grew up. 5 trees, 5 seeds growing out together from the same source where a Clark's nutcracker buried the seeds. Even though the limber pine is an interesting story all by itself as to how it will twist and bend and live in harsh environments, the story that I want to share today is the fact that science will change its mind. What was once thought to be a 2,000-year-old limber pine turns out to be several hundred-year-old limber pines that grew out together from the Clark's nutcracker. So as you study science, lots of theories out there, and you may be one who says, wait a minute, there may be another explanation, and find a better theory. Thank you for visiting my classroom today.